There does happen to be some data, some objective and even verifiable evidence that implies both the existence of an afterlife and a supreme being in charge of it all. There's a surprisingly credible case from people who claim to be actual eyewitnesses to this afterlife and eyewitnesses to the God that they claim that they met there. People whose hearts stopped, whose brainwaves flattened, but who later returned to life. It's a case from so-called near-death experiences, and during the last 50 years, it has gained more credibility than you might realize. By near-death experience, which I'll sometimes abbreviate here as NDE, we simply mean events that take place as a person is dying or indeed already clinically dead. That's a standard definition from the research, and a standard finding from the research is that reports of NDEs transcend generations and transcend cultures and belief systems. Reports come from everywhere. Well, let's look at the evidence and you can judge for yourself. So Exhibit 1, we'll call it the prevalence and pattern of near-death experiences. People all over the world have reported taking one of these out-of-body journeys when their physical body went into cardiac arrest, during a medical operation, or after a car accident, or maybe when they were drowning, or any number of contexts. Apparently, this is a fairly common occurrence that's becoming more and more common with every new life-saving technique that can bring people back from the brink. The really curious thing about these journey reports isn't just how many there are, or even how global they are, but really how consistent they are. Many of these accounts feature the same core elements, and no doubt you've heard of some of these. Things like seeing your body from above, or moving through a tunnel, an encounter with a being of light, feeling of perfect peace, unconditional love, meeting other spiritual beings, angels or deceased loved ones, walking through a place of indescribable beauty, sometimes reaching a boundary or point of no return, and then returning to their body, often involuntarily. Also, this pattern appears to be consistent in studies of children. Even the blind have reported many of these same elements in their near-death experiences. And that is quite significant in social science research. These kinds of populations offering consistent testimony. People who go through these experiences usually come back changed, different in some way. Most of them no longer fear death because they're confident that they know what's next. And many of them no longer fear life. They begin taking more risks and they start enjoying life to the fullest. Plus, there are countless stories out there of people whose lives turned around completely after their near-death experience. Not all of these events are blissful. Some people report hellish near-death experiences, that are uniquely distressing. But this second line of evidence simply shows that whatever these experiences are, they're real enough to create total transformation in people's lives. Damascus Road-like changes in their worldview, which is what we'd expect if these experiences actually reflect reality. And this is the corroborated evidence for life after death experiences. Corroborated meaning that these claims that these people made about their experience were verified by others as accurate. Corroboration looks something like this. Sometimes it's an accurate report from this person about what happened in the operating room during their surgery while they were incapacitated. Sometimes corroboration is an accurate report about events farther away from where the person was dying, somewhere else in the hospital or outside of the hospital, or maybe even miles away. Again, it's inexplicable how they would know these things. Remember, the difference in these reports and what makes people take them a little more seriously is that there's corroboration of the claims. Just like in a court of law, when some witness's story checks out as true. To be clear, the evidence here is certainly not beyond a reasonable doubt. We can say with integrity, I think, is that the prevalence and consistent pattern of near-death experiences, plus the changed lives afterward, plus the mounting corroborated evidence is clearly making it more likely than not that at least some of these experiences are real, that they're actual eyewitness accounts of what happens when our body shuts down. It's increasingly difficult to escape that conclusion. First, the near-death experience evidence implies that there is indeed a supernatural realm, right? Not just a natural one. In other words, there's evidence here of a world beyond our own, contrary to the atheist position. Evidence here of a supernatural world. Second, the NDE evidence implies that our consciousness survives physical death. As so many have speculated throughout history, the last 50 years of social science data indicate that there really is an afterlife for human beings, possibly with multiple destinations, one glorious and one quite ghastly. Death, it seems, is a doorway. And third, with regard to the question of God's existence. In testimony after testimony, people describe meeting a supreme being of light who communicated absolute, unconditional love and acceptance. And the NDE evidence may reveal both the existence of God as well as the nature of God. Could anything be more profound?